All right, I see a couple of people starting to filter in here. I'm going to give it another moment. Of course, for those that are early arrivers, if you have any questions, don't be shy. Start popping them in now. We can get right to the questions. If you don't have any, if there are no questions, I'm going to wait another moment or so before we start to get going, knowing that there'll be some folks that all join in the next 90 seconds or so. Again, if you're an early arriver, don't be shy. Get a question in for me now. If not, if you don't have questions, I'll get going with some other stuff in a moment here. And as always, I don't have any pre-done content, right, folks? So if you have questions, don't be shy. Get those questions in for me, right? Sergio, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. So we'll take a pause for 1 second here, and I will hope for some questions to come in while we wait for others to join us. So again, just going to take another 30 seconds for people to pile in here. But again, if you're one of the early folks here, please do not hesitate to get some questions in here for me, right? So, all right, Sergio, I wanted to ask Brokers Plus, when placing an order using my strategy via Tito, yes, I have my risk management in place and it's done automatically. However, when I place manual orders, I cannot seem to. So, a few things we can do here. Bear with me for a moment. Let me get Brokerage Plus over. And so, something you could do here is this. And again, folks, anybody with questions, don't be shy, get them in. I will get to all the questions that we have here. So, one thing you could do here, let's just say I was buying WKEY, right? WKEY, quantity, buy 100 shares. And then we'll go at market and I could set up a stop loss like this. So I could set up a stop price of where we're at. I can set up a stop price, let's say of, I don't know, let's go with $12, right? And I could add a target. Let's call it 1375. I can apply that, all right? And then I can go ahead and send this right here. And we can see the top stop and the target populated right there for me on the chart. So you could do it like that if you wanted. A more advanced way, I'm personally not a fan of this, but it is a function, so I will, of course, share it. You go to Tools, Options, go to Brokerage Plus, come to Orders, and in here you can set some of the stuff for this down here. Let me get my drawing tool out. Always good here. Come on, drawing tool, hustle. There we go. So this window here controls this window down here, essentially, this part of what I'd call an order entry panel, right? And so, you can have it set so it's just defaulted to a market buy or a limit, or a market or a limit order. You could have it set to go right in as buy or sell as default. So I'm always on buy as default and market as default here. So you can change those. You can change the increments of some of the stuff here. Down here, you could set up automatic profits and stops that'll go every time. Now, the one thing is it'll be that for every single order, right? But it may be a time saver in the sense that, I want my targets to my stop and my target to automatically populate. And then you could take and click and drag those as you see fit once they're populated, because they may not be exactly where you want them to be at that point. But you could always set up, let's say, a stop loss of 5% and a target of 10%, whatever you want it to be like that. And once you've set that all up, you go to save it. One thing in here I see trip people up all the time, and I mean all the time, is they'll set these limits here. And then they come to me, why aren't my orders executing? And it's because these limits are met, whether it's, shares or dollars or anything like that. So unless you really want to control that part of everything, don't play with the maximum orders thing, right? Because that could stop you from getting in a trade you really want to be in. Again, anybody with questions, do not be shy. Get those questions in here. It's an open forum. I will get to every question in here. To get that, Sergio, the first thing that I showed there is it's in the positions tab, right? So just look for it there. Excuse me, something caught in my throat there. So if you come to, if you don't have a positions tab up here already, go to new positions tab, and it'll open a positions tab just like that for you. And then, if you have different accounts, you can select the account you want it looking at specifically here. And if you have different accounts, you can select the account in here for the actual orders going through, right? So it's not just connecting. Here we connect a broker. Here we connect the account to the broker, because you could have more than one account in your broker, right? And so you have to direct exactly where that trade is going to. So Sergio, let me know if that all makes sense. If you have other questions, if I went too fast on something, you need me to circle back, or more details on anything like that. Fantastic ways to like to learn how to predict exit points. On another platform, a trader successfully uses TI for this. Could you please explain how to? There's no prediction. There's no such thing as predicting in the market. So I don't know what this other person is doing. I'm certain they're not predicting. They're probably using likely if-then scenarios for their technical analysis. So for example, something they may be doing is this. Let me clear this all up here. They may look at let me get rid of this browser. I don't want that there. So they may look and say, all right, low of the day. If we hit the low of the day, I want it to be the stop, because it may fall further to close that gap, right? So, they may be they're picking, they're going to be using some kind of indicator or pivot point for picking those entries and exits. Again, using W key as an example here, they might be looking for a target on the weekly chart and saying, oh, it looks like we've got room to, the top of this topping shadow here on the daily, and we're going to pick a target of roughly $27, whatever that happens to be on that day there, like that. That's what they're likely doing, but there's no actual prediction, right? So, all right. Exponently, give me a second. I'm going to get to your questions. Horse Traveler, same thing. So just bear with me as I'm going to go in order here on the questions that are coming, but we've got plenty of time and I will get to everybody. So just hang tight with me. So fantastic waves. Let me know if that makes sense. The only other thing anybody could be doing as far as our software goes is if they enabled, let's say, the smart risk levels, and they just wanted to use the smart risk levels. And the smart risk levels will show you, if you entered now, where it would base the stop. And that's going to be based on a proprietary mathematical formula that has to do with ATR and volatility and volume. And so, like, if we were to enter right now, it would be telling us to stick the stop down here at 1350, 1351, right? And then the target is just double that distance of the entry to stop. So those are the places that you could find suggested stops, but they're not, again, it's not a prediction of anything. I just always like to be clear. There is no crystal ball in the stock market. So if you have more questions on that fantastic waves, please let me know, get those in here. All right. So exponently, you and I had an email exchange earlier. I did go into some detail a little bit on the web version for you, and I'm going to load up into the web version for you right now. Bear with me while I log into that. Just bear with me. So we're going to access the web version here. I'm going to log in. And as I went on in my email with you earlier, You got these channels here, right? So you may, I would suggest going through some of the channels, seeing if there's anything you like. Some of the channels I think are fairly self-explanatory. Others maybe, might have questions. Shoot us an email about that or ask here. But what you can do is this: if you don't want to do anything in the channels here, we get rid of all this, right? Boom, gone, channels. I go new, and I want to create an alert window. And so that's going to create this alert window here, and it's going to have some pre-configured stuff in here as a default. I could right click and come to configure. I could also use these 3 lines here and come to configure. And in here, if we go to alert, right, we see a new high is selected as an alert. I can search for different alerts. So in the case of pre-market, right, I'm going to go pre, and you can see pre-market high and pre-market low. So if we're looking for pre-market highs, we click that, get rid of the new high, because new high only works during regular hours. Yep, so pre-market gap up. All right, so and then we can come to filters, right? And we're going to see some stuff is populated in here. Get rid of relative volume for pre-market. Relative volume will not work in the pre-market. It will block data. So get rid of that. If you want other stuff in here. Now, I always suggest to people generally I say skip the gap filter unless you really, really specifically want a gap for regular hours. For the pre-market, use the change from close, either percent or dollar. So change from close is right here. You can search for anything here too. If I wanted RSI, for example, if I wanted VWAP, right? If I wanted range, right? You could search, and whatever we have is going to come back to you, right? And then you could add it and add the filters to it. So in this case, we want change from close. All right, we got change from close percent here, and whatever we want to see a stock up. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Is it 2.75%? Whatever you want to see it up, put it in the minimum column here like that. You got a price range you want to see, price, add that, so on and so forth. And the scan will then, in real time, every time there's an alert of a stock that meets it, you get a time-stamped alert to that second saying, hey, this stock met your criteria like that. Now, personally, and I think more popular, is a top list during the pre-market. The thing with top lists is they just constantly auto-update with the stocks that meet the filters, so there's no sound or anything like that. So if you want sound, right, so in this case, with the alert window, we'll go like that. We right click, actions, play sound. Don't worry about setup sound. You've got one choice. These are all going to be the same. They're going to make the same noise, but that's it on your choices, and it'll give you a beepish ding kind of sound with that. And then, I would suggest this if you can live without sound. New top list. All right. Again, right click and come into configure. And I would look for change from close here. Get rid of, the pre-made stuff in here. Go change from close. I'm sorry. Go to sort, actually. Go to sort. Then look up change from close. Click on that change from close percent one. All right. And then add some filters. You want to see stocks that are, $1 to $100, for example. Maybe you want volume. They traded at least, let's say, volume in shares. They traded at least, 75,000 shares on the day. And then if you press OK, this is going to sort the stocks that are up the most from the close. The prior close are going to be on top and in descending order, and they'll have to have met your volume metrics like that. So those are the things that I would be doing, especially for the pre-market. And I always tell people, consider this with the pre-market. How many stocks are really, really, really moving in the pre-market, right? 3, 5, maybe 10, right? And I'm not talking about, Apple and Tesla that just trade tons of shares in the pre-market but don't necessarily move a ton. I mean, talking about the real movers in the pre-market. There's not going to be 50 stocks really moving in the pre-market, right? That never happens. It never happens. It's literally a handful of stocks that move in the pre-market. So you don't need a lot to find those stocks. A little bit of volume and the ones that are moving the most from the prior day's close. And those are going to be your main things you want to look at for the pre-market to find what's moving. Of course, once the market opens, yes, then there could be, 15, 20, 30 stocks that are really going crazy, right? And then you have a whole different animal when you get to the regular session. So exponentially, let me know if that all made sense. If you need me to circle back on anything, and I'm just going to keep moving down. Sergio, I didn't forget you. I'm going to circle back. Just give me a second. Love to see so Horse Traveler, we're working on it. We've got this for a Mac right now, what you're seeing me do here. That's that there. We do have our market dashboard. I'll bring that over. That also Mac users can utilize here. And there's a lot of pre-made stuff in this as well if you go through all the dashboard. And this here, the goal is to move Trade Ideas Pro, the download, into this web here over the next, ambitiously, our management team wants to say by the end of 2025. I don't know, when it comes to development and stuff like that, you can have a lot of plans and then, things happen when it comes to development, right? And moving code source over and things like that. I am not a developer, so I can't even pretend to know how any of that will really shake out or go. But the ultimate goal is that Trade Ideas Pro, the download will eventually cease to exist and it'll just be one unified web version across the board with all the features for everybody like that webified. So it's happening. Clearly not at the pace subscribers want, and of course not at the pace that we want. We want to move it over like that and as quickly as we can, but we also have to make sure quick and right are in line with each other. So there is that. Without a question, we're late to the game. We know it. Hindsight being, we would have liked to have started this 2 or 3 years ago. It is what it is, but we're trying to play catch up as quick as we can. Good. Why does alert window title says breaking out on volume? Yeah, you can change it. Yeah, so that's one of the things I always try to convey to people is that the scans are actually, we can make them whatever we want. So I could call this, even though this is looking for stocks up the most on the day, I could call it today's biggest losers, for example. And if we go to configure and we go to the summary tab, right in here, I could rename it to whatever I want it to be, breaking out on pre-market, pre-market volume breakouts, low volume, XYZ, whatever we want to call it right there. And we can name that. So it's always a little tricky. People email in and say, hey, can I get the blah, blah, blah scan? And it's like, there could be thousands of them out there, from different users. If it's a specific user you're looking for it from, you got to contact them to get their scan. But if you have an idea what you want the scan to be, let us know. We'll help you put together a template without any question. So, can you have more than alert one window? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that there's necessarily a limit to how many you can have. You will be limited because you're in this container here of the web browser. So there is that limit to start with. Inside Trade Ideas Pro, the download, the limits kind of become, I try to tell people, think about, data moving back and forth through a hose, right? And we've got a fire hose here that the data can come back and forth through. You start putting too many scans and it's a little subjective on what too many means. Then you're trying to shove a watermelon through a fire hose, essentially, right? Obviously not going to work through physics. The subjectiveness of that is based on, how many filters are in alert, how many selected alerts there are, how many columns are in the scan, how many different charts, other kinds of windows that you got going on, compare, count, top list, so on and so forth. So, there's no one template to say, oh, this will definitely get you over the limit. This is definitely within the limit. It's one of those things where you start adding stuff, and if you can, physically and visibly see things slow down, you're going to have to put something in check. The other thing I always tell people that's important is break up your layouts, right? There's no reason to use a pre-market scan during regular market hours, and vice versa. There's no reason to have a regular market scan during pre-market hours. They're very different dynamically, I think more because of volume than anything else, right? So breaking up your layout, number one, will stop you from having any technical issues with the software. But number two, think about your brain as a processor, right? If you've got, 2,000 tickers coming through your screen, flying through, there's just no reasonable possible way you can look at 2,000 tickers, right, and make a decision. It's just not possible. So, this becomes trying to narrow things down to the best idea generation group for what you're trying to do, right? That's why what you see here on my screen, not the web part, but what's behind it here. I only fill my screen so that when I'm streaming and stuff, I've got more things to talk about. But I could do without some of these scans that are on here, to be honest. I have a very narrow focused view of what I'm trying to do because I know specifically what I'm looking for. And if what I'm specifically looking for isn't showing up, there's no trades for me at the moment. That's, just kind of the way it goes. Pepe, what's up? Yeah, with no question, Horse. Like I said, we want to see it move to that webified version as well, without any question. So it looks like exponentially, we're looking good. Yeah, and I mean, 2 or 3 is on the lower side of things. I mean, some people might have like 7, 8, 9 alert windows, and each alert window is only putting off maybe 30, 40 alerts in a day. I don't think that's unreasonable because it's not like they're firing nonstop or anything like that. So again, that's where the subjectivity comes into it. So, and I tell people this too. Look, at the very beginning, when you're first using the software, don't be shy. You can go heavy with it, right? Because you're still searching, figuring out what works, what you like, what you don't like. And so, bringing a little more in is totally reasonable. And then as you go through, say, yeah, I like this. I want to keep that, or I want to adjust it like this because then it's better. I don't like that. Let me drop that. And that's just, the natural ebb and flow of how the software learning curve goes. I can say for myself, I first subscribed to Trade Ideas back in summer of 2017. I've been through, I must have been through in my first year. I'd be comfortable saying a few hundred layout formats during that time period. First off, I didn't know a lick about trading, let alone trading software. And then over time, the adjustments lessened and, less often, and each one was less of an adjustment when I would make it until I've settled upon, what you see here is mostly what I've been using for the last several years now. They're just kind of the ebb and flow of that. How to break out layouts. Yeah. So this is what you could do. So let's just say, I'm just going to pretend that these scans are what I want here. And then I could go new, and get chart, I'll move this chart and adjust it how I want. And maybe I want another new chart and bring that here like that. Right. Let's just pretend for 1 second this is a layout that I wanted. I would go tools, and I could either save it as a default layout, meaning every time I load Trade Ideas from the web, this is what will specifically open, or I could go to save the cloud, and I could click entire layout. I can name it, pre-market layout, and then I go click save, right? And then the next time I load this, it's going to be going to tools, load from cloud, and you'll see pre-market layout. It's right there like that. And you could load, you can make multiple layouts. You can't load them all at the same time, but you can have different layouts and swap between those layouts, pre-market, post-market, regular market. I've seen people do it where they had a layout where they used from at the open at 9:30 Eastern until noon, and then from noon to the close they used a different layout even. So I've seen all kinds of stuff like that go on. But that's how you do that again. So you find that under tools, save to cloud. And you can also save just individual scans. That's nothing wrong with that as well. Same with individual charts. And you just go ahead and click the item that you want to save, and then save it, and then that's it. And it'll always be, whenever you save anything to cloud, you're going to find it under load from cloud there. And anything in your cloud you're going to find in there just like that. Really simple. And the cloud is nice because it helps us share scans and other items back and forth really conveniently and easily. A lot of people trade with a community. They go to their own trading rooms or whatever else. They use trade ideas and they share scans back and forth. There are times people are struggling to make a scan, or they simply don't want to learn the software at all. So they ask us, can you make me scan XYZ? And we'll make scan XYZ for them and ship off the cloud link for them, and they can take it from there how they want to use it. Mike C, what's happening? I feel like I ain't seen you in a minute. How are you, Mike C? Good to see you. Good to see you. Hopefully everything is well as you wind into the end of the year here. Post hours, yeah. So same thing here. I'm just going to use this window here on the relative volume. Actually, no, let me use the alert window. So again, if we come to alerts, we can see what we have for post-market. You type in post-market, and you're going to see we have post-market highs and lows. So we could always add that. Then if we come back to the filters, we have post-market. And so there's a few different things in there. The change post-market, both dollar and percent. You can see the values over here. There's post-market shares as well, too, that you can put in. So for example, something may, not be, you may want to just see stuff. You don't care if it moved during the regular hours, but you want to know about post-market, but you need a minimum amount of shares for you getting alerted on it. So you put like a minimum, let's say 1,000 shares for the post-market, and then a post-market change, and you could sort it with the top list if you wanted instead. Same concept as what you would do with the pre-market, just obviously swapping it pre-market for post-market is all as far as the filter and alert set go. Yeah, Sergio, of course. So let me close this out here, and I'm just going to minimize this window for right now. Let me get back in Trade Ideas Pro. All right, I'm glad that helped. And I try to tell people, I know everybody wants to hit the ground running, like sprinting instantly with the software, and I get it. I can totally appreciate that. Well, it's one of those things like a little bit of effort. And if you have any knowledge in the market and just you're decent with software, give yourself like 5 days of, a good solid 5+ hours of banging on this, going through through the motions a little bit. And you'll be amazed at like day 3, 4, and 5, how fast and far you come with this software. So, all right, let me bring back over. Oh, it looks like W key hit my target. So again, in here, we could use, we'll just use W key again, or no, let's use, I guess this is on the move here. So QUBT is on the move, right? And let's just say, sorry. All right, yeah, I'm logged back in here. All right, and let's just say I wanted to buy this, right, with the stop loss and the target. I'm going to buy 100 shares. I'm on the buy side already, so I don't have to click it. If I wanted to sell, I click sell. And if I click here, add stop loss, right? And stop price on this, let's go with $9, right? And then add a target, click in there to add the target, and I'll add a target of, 9.75, right? And I'll press apply, and you can see how those lit up here, the green for the target and the red for the stop. I'll send that order, and bang, there we go. And I got what I was asking for there, just like that. What's the strategy to support overnight trading? Development. They're already into it. They're already looking. See, these are the things that slow us down on webifying stuff, is them coming out with stuff like that. We were already working on overnight trading as it was, but it looks like we need to speed up a little bit. So one of the things that people it's not forefront, so no one would understand it because it's not a forefront thing. But our optimizing tool uses an overnight process to crunch all the data for back testing and optimizing, and that takes time. It doesn't just happen in a flip of a switch. There is a lot that goes on to take our over 500 data points. I mean, if you think about this, we take an alert window here. Think about taking every one of these data points and crunching it through. I mean, and watch how long it's going to take me to scan through this, right? Scroll through this. 3 seconds of scrolling. And I'm going as fast as I can. We're going to take every one of those data points and run it through what we call our overnight process for the back testing and optimizing portion of it. So now we need to figure out a way to do that when there's no overnight. Actually, there's no break overnight. We're just running 24/7 now. So it's not going to be easy, but we've been working on it for a while now anyways. So we'll just see, like I said, I'm not a developer or a coder, and so I won't pretend to know anything other than I know it's happening. Sergio, all right, perfect. Glad that we got you sorted with that. I like hearing that. It's a phenomenal session so far, everybody. Please keep the questions coming. Trying to think. All right, let me scroll back. Let me try to miss anything here. I think I got to everything. If you put something in I didn't get to, please don't be shy. Throw it back in here. I would never ignore anything on purpose, honestly. And if I went over something and you need more on that topic, please also let me know, right? I think we got to everybody here. All right, I'm fairly confident we did. All right, cool. How much do you need to get started? So we're not a broker or fund managers, James. We're software. People use our software to scan for idea generation that they want to see in the market, and then they trade it through their broker how they see fit. We do directly connect to Interactive Brokers, E-Trade, and Alpaca. So, I mean, the generalized answer to that would be whatever they require for account minimums. I'll also say this: if you're in the U.S. and you're trying to day trade, if you want a margin account for day trading where you can just go in and out of stocks as you like, you have to be above $25,000 for that. That's an SEC law, not a regulation. That has nothing to do with us or anything else. It doesn't even really have to do with your broker. They just have to enforce that. If you use a cash account, you can trade on your settled cash as much as you want. And so let's just say you have $10,000 in your account for settled cash or for cash. If you trade all $10,000 today, you're done trading for the day. And then tomorrow, as long as you're not holding any positions overnight, that $10,000 resets. Or if you lost any, you're going to lose that off of it. Or if you gained any, you're going to gain that back into settled cash. And then you can, continue to trade that next day. But as far as we don't take deposits or anything like that. We're subscription-based software. We have lots of pre-made scans. However you want to use those can be edited. You can create your own scans, so on and so forth like that. That's who and what we are as far as a company. There's a lot more. I mean, I'm giving you a very broad overview. There's all kinds of functions within the software, setting price alerts, different ways to scan, market breadth, what we call compare count windows, actually. There's people that are into data mining, so we have logging tools for, logging the data out of some of our scans. There's quite a bit here. Talk on collaborate option. Are you talking about if I right click? Sorry, I lost my mouse. If I right click and I go to collaborate, is that what you're talking about there, Horse? If that's what you're talking about, collaborate is a way you could take a top list and convert it to convert it to an alert window or vice versa. And then you could also collaborate to make a multi-strategy window with your alert window. So like if you got like, let's say you've got limited, you got one screen, you can't get another screen for whatever reason, and you've got 4 alert windows that you really like, but you're limited on real estate. You could stick all 4 of those alert windows in a multi-window. So I'll just give you an example. I'm just going to make some. I'm going to bring this over real quick. So we're just going to go new alert window. I'm going to call them multi-1. Bear with me. New alert window. Multi-2. 2. Okay, I'm just going to do this with 3. New alert window. 3. Okay, so that's just populated on another window. Let me bring them over. One status new alert window. I guess I didn't name it right. So you got multi-1, multi-3, and new alert window. Now, if I go to new multi-strategy window, you see it's just lines up blank. But if I right-click, go to collaborate, and if I highlight what's in that collaborate there, copy, right-click the multi-window, strategies, new strategy, collaborate right here, and I delete what loads there, put this in, paste, bang. That alert window is now in here. And you see it's called new alert. And then if I do this here, collaborate, see if the copy all works. Strategies, new alert, collaborate. Okay. And now we're going to see that come in. It did not come through. All right, let's try collaborate again. Collaborate. Copy. Now let's try that. Strategies. Collaborate. Let's get rid of that. Paste. Okay. There we go. There's multi-3 now in there, right? And so that's what you'd use collaborate for here. Generally speaking, if you're sharing scans back and forth with anybody, you don't want to use the collaborate. There's multiple reasons. I'm not going to bore you with them other than it doesn't work the same as using a cloud link. So now you can see here, if I go to strategies, I got multi-3 and new alert in here. And if I did the same thing with multi-1, it would come in here too. You can come in here and you go to properties and nope, not properties. Where's it? Configure strategy. There you go. Background colors. I can change the colors on this, so I can change the foreground, let's say to this green. Change the background to. Oops. I can change the background to. I don't know. Let's go with this blue here. Now, when I press this, you can see how that changed that like that. Obviously, not a good combination because you can't really see the lettering, but you get the point, I believe. So yeah, that's what you would do there. On your short squeeze channel in the races window, do the percentages represent the short interest or the short float? Let me see if I can open that as a docked channel. Bear with me. I can't open a regular channel right now or I'll lose my layout. I believe there's a short squeeze dock channel. All right. Erase. So I just need to look at the configure because I don't have this off the top of my head. Okay, so that percentage right there, or that right there is just the percentage up from the prior day's close. You can see it matches with this down here, right there. That's matching with that right there. That's the number that's doing that off of. So you can only do that with our alert logging tool. First, I'm going to share a link for you from our user's guide on this, and then I'll do a quick run over it, but you can refer back to the link later on. So bear with me. And this will only work with top listen alert windows. There's no other, you can't use it with any other scam, this alert logging here. So there's that. And what you'll do is this. Let me clean all this stuff up. So come to Tools, Options, General, and down here, display the CSV logger tool, right? Make sure that's checked, save it. And then on any top list or alert window, if you right click, you'll see alert logging. Just go ahead and check that. And then you'll get a CSV file that goes into your Trade Ideas Pro folder in here. So just make sure you locate that Trade Ideas Pro folder, and you can see I've tested the logging in the past. So you can see all these log files that I've got here. I don't use it. I don't store data or do anything like that. So I understand the function of this. That's what it does there. And so that's how you would use that. And an insider secret that, we don't announce because there's no reason to. The exchanges do not like this. For whatever reason, the powers that be and the regulators of the market do not like that we allow users to do that. They really love to pick on us about it. So just keep that in mind. They can't necessarily stop us from letting you do it or anything like that, but they frown upon it for whatever reason. I don't really know. I mean, I suspect I know why, but it's kind of stupid, but it is what it is. Just, contributes to the whole game is rigged type of thing. So, all right, very good. We're cooking along here. It is not available for the web browser interface. Sorry. Only the download for now. All right. We'll continue to cruise along here. You are very welcome. Debbie, I miss stocks popping up in AM. So your scan is likely using, if it's an alert window, it's likely using an alert and or filter that does not work in the pre-market. If it's a top list, it's just using a filter that does not work in the pre-market. The biggest culprits are going to be this. With alert windows, don't use new high or new low. Those only work in regular hours. You want pre-market. If I could type, that would help, right? So pre-market highs and pre-market lows. Also, any of these 5-minute high, 10-minute, 15, 30, and 60-minute highs, or the converse of those, the lows, those will work in the pre-market as alerts too. So you can use those for the alert window, right? And then do not, I repeat, do not use the relative volume filter in the pre-market. If you use this filter in the pre-market and you put any value in there, it will block data in the pre-market. I believe if you put a 1, data will still come through because everything defaults to be a 1 in the pre-market for relative volume. But the pre-market, there's no pre-market data for relative volume, and so it will block data by having that in there. If you've got nothing coming in 9:30 to 10, it would just mean that nothing is meeting your scan or you're not logged in properly. And I always tell people this, 2 things we can do here to troubleshoot you. First one, if you're so inclined to troubleshoot yourself, you can use what we call our missing symbol check tool for alert windows. I'm going to give you a link to this just so you can refer to it at your own leisure, but then I'm going to go over this tool as well. And then, excuse me, let's say I've got this scan and I'm just trying to find something in my, I'm sorry, I'm trying to just find a random alert window, but I don't have many alert windows in my cloud anymore because I don't really use them for much. All right, here we go. Let's say I've got this scan here, right? And the SPY, for example, I thought the SPY should have alerted here. It didn't. I can right click, go to missing symbol check, type SPY. There it is right there. And the end time is going to be the earliest time that we think it should have seen. And this will run automatically from the open of today at the pre-market till current time right now. And so I'm running the whole day to figure out why the SPY didn't make it. I press OK, and then I'm going to get this window over here. And the columns that are highlighted in red are columns that there were filters that were never met. And then the heartbeat is just, so the heartbeat works like this. It's an old alert that was used in place of topless before topless became a thing. When our market data starts in the morning, each stock has a timestamp that it starts its quote market data. So for example, if we just took Apple as an example, Apple starts right at 4 a.m., boom, on the dot. And there's a heartbeat pulse that goes out every 5 minutes from there for Apple. And then Tesla starts at 4 o'clock and 1 millisecond. And the heartbeat for Tesla goes out every 5 minutes from that 4 o'clock and 1 millisecond. And then Google, 4 o'clock and 2 milliseconds. And every 5 minutes from that 4 o'clock and 2 milliseconds, the heartbeat goes out. So every heartbeat is just going to return what the filters were that you're using in that scan at that point in the missing symbol check here. And so that will tell you why your stock didn't meet any of the scans. The other thing too, if you're still struggling, you can't figure it out, shoot us an email, right? And just shoot an email to info@trade-ideas.com and say, hey, Trade Ideas support. I think Apple should have met my scan at 9:45 Eastern this morning. It didn't. I can't figure it out. Can you tell me why it wasn't met? Listen, on occasion there could be a data issue. I'll be honest. I don't know that I've really come across one as far as a stock should have been there and it wasn't. Outside of either a filter wasn't met, or the one that does get a little tricky is sometimes people are using, for example, a float filter, and we're not reporting float data for whatever reason on the stock, and so it would get excluded because the float data wasn't there. If you follow along like that, it could happen with, let's say, an earnings filter if you were using that or something like that. So we're not infallible, like anybody else. But for the most part, it's generally, I find a lot of times when a stock doesn't meet someone's scan, it's a volume filter almost always. They got a minimum threshold, let's say 5 million shares traded. The stock started moving like crazy, but it hadn't traded 5 million shares yet. So it doesn't show up till it crosses that threshold. Just as an example, it's kind of one of the things I see the most. So Debbie, let me know if that makes sense. If you have other questions, or if I got that totally wrong, let me know. And again, got a couple more minutes before I wrap up here, folks. So please, anybody with questions, don't be shy. Don't be shy. I got to say, this has been a wonderful session. This really has. I like it when we're plugging away at questions like this on the software. It's much selfishly, it's much nicer for me instead of me having to dance around and just kind of come up with, you know, things to talk about randomly. Thank you, Horse. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And if I don't see you later in the week, you have a great rest of the week as well. Appreciate you coming in and hanging with me. Thank you. Thank you. And again, anybody at all with any questions, please don't be shy. Get those questions in for me here. I'm really happy to answer those. This is kind of my, I'll call it my bread and butter for the, you know, for the software, for my support. You know, I really strive to know as much of the software as possible. The software is super deep and super vast. You know, I have a very good handle on most of it. There's probably something that I can get tripped up on. Full confession, I'm not great when it comes to the formula editor. I've got enough basics to set someone in a direction. But when it comes to some of the operators and formulas of that, I do lack there. I won't lie. You know, that's not from lack of an effort. I'm much further along than I used to be, but not where I want to be with that. But all the same, I know enough to set people, if they're really ambitious about it, to set them in a direction. The Anchored View app, yeah, of course. Let me get rid of these here. So I'll do it one from a non-browser chart. So this is a non-browser. What I mean by that is if I right-click this chart here, you can see how browser interface is checked. If I right-click this, you can see it's unchecked. There's different reasons to have them checked or unchecked depending on what you want to see and what you want to use a little bit. So on this one here on the pencil, if I click the anchor and I anchor from here, you can see this purple line that happened. And it's the VWAP's, the VWAP's anchored from that candle up to now. On this here, if I click, it's just an anchor here when it's browser interfaced. If I click that here and I go and let's just use that candle, you're going to see the purple line show up here like that. So that's what that should be doing for you there. And then one other thing you can do too is once you've done that, right click, come to indicators, go to edit, and just see if it shows up there. So you can see AVWAP from 10.9, right? So that's where I AVWAP'd that from was 10.9. Perfect, excellent. And then, you know, on the converse side here, indicators, AVWAP from 12:13, 11:35 a.m. Eastern. And that's where, you know, it's AVWAP from that candle there like that. So, you know, AVWAP is a big Brian Shannon indicator. For those that, you know, you don't know, just a quick web search should return you some information about Brian. Yeah, I personally met him once. Very nice gentleman, very smart trader, all about risk management and things like that. And his, you know, his real big proponent of his trading is the AVWAP. You know, some other things that he talks about too, but big AVWAP guy is really kind of the inventor of AVWAP. And you know, we worked with him to create the AVWAP add-on, sat down with him and his last book, and he really kind of was the guiding hand on all that for us. And, you know, the setting of the strategies and things they're looking for and all that kind of stuff like that. So yeah. So again, folks, please don't be shy. You've got more questions for me. You got a couple of more minutes before I wrap up for the day here. Happy to get some more questions in before we do so. Debbie, if you're still hanging with me here, please, you know, let me know if you have more questions about what you were asking. I want to make sure you get sorted. I don't want you. I, I I don't want anybody to walk away from one of these sessions and be like, ah, he didn't answer my question. He ignored me. He didn't understand me, and walk away frustrated. That's the last. It's among the last things that I want. Um, on a semi internal personal note, uh, I work a lot of weekends, or I work every weekend. I don't really take a day off from this. And so over the weekends, I answer a lot of emails that come in, and then people don't like my answers over the weekend. And then, they write some very not nice things to me. And I mean very not nice things to me. And that's frustrating to me for two reasons. One, nobody likes to be insulted when they're doing their job, and trying to help people. And two, it's even worse when you're going out of your way to try to give people good service and they do that. And, you know, we're a subscription based service. So customer service is important for us, right? If you folks aren't getting what you need out of the software, you're going to cancel and move on. And that's not good for us, right? We need you folks to do well with the software and have the software become a value to you, and you're trading for profits. It's just that simple. Your success is our success. You guys, we all don't have any success, and it's not good for us whatsoever. So it's important to me personally that you folks ask the questions that you really need, and we get you those answers. And sometimes we don't get it right away. We may not understand exactly what you were asking, or a misinterpretation of it. And there's gonna be a little back and forth with that. We just ask, bear with us, because we're gonna get you there, as far as your question goes. Now, the other component obviously is trading, and there's no promises in trading and all those things like that. But as far as the software part of things go, we will certainly we will certainly keep at it with you to get you answers that we can. Sometimes, we may not have what you're looking for. There's there's just data points we don't have with the software. That's all there is to it. It has nothing to do with us not wanting to give you the answer or anything like that. It doesn't exist in the software. And while we certainly don't like telling people we don't have it, that's just the way it goes sometimes. You go to a restaurant and you order a cheeseburger and they say, we don't serve cheeseburgers here. Well, not much the restaurant can do about that, right? Do you have any Momo strategies with a profit factor of? I don't. I don't have anything that I don't backtest like that, Sergio. To be honest, I can show you something. I don't. Let me find something in my cloud. I played with the backtester a lot back in the day, and it gets discouraging when you back test something and it looks good, and then you forward test it and it falls apart in forward testing. But let me see if I can find something for you here. Let's see what this even looks. So when I first created this, it was amazing. This scan was like, and I don't feel like I over optimized it or anything like that. And then the whole thing completely fell apart. So that really sucked. I spent some time thinking about the strategy and whatever else. Anyways, let's see what it looks like now. It's a swing trading strategy. Couldn't believe how good it back tested at the beginning. And then it stayed good for like 2 weeks after I'd finished optimizing it. Yeah. So look, profit factor of 1. I've never had something with such a high average winner before. And this was down here. This was at like 0.40 or 41 at first. So it was like looking real good. And then of course it completely fell apart on me. Give you an idea what we're doing with it. And I'll share a cloud link with you. I'll throw a cloud link in here. Just give me 1 second. Let me throw that in first. Stuart, this is anytime someone asks that, and then I ask the development team, I have the same answer for them every time. Buy the best machine you can buy, because stuff goes out of date so fast that spend what you can spend, obviously without going crazy outside of your budget or anything like that. It's supposed to work like this, that we do most of the heavy lifting on our servers and just display that data on your machine. I have to disagree with our development team on that, and we've butted heads on this for a while. I don't feel like it's like that, because I see things slow up on my side Sometimes. Now, granted, I'm running streaming stuff and other troubleshooting things. I've got I'll tend to have a lot of tabs open in Chrome. It is what it is. So I would say buy what you can afford, the most that you can afford, and then also, I mean, for what it's worth. Give me a second here. I'll show you what my system is. If I can, what the hell is it? System. About device. Bear with me. Bear with me. So this is what I've got for a system here. 12th gen Intel Core TM i7 12700 2.1 gigahertz, 24 gigabytes of RAM, 64-bit operating system. So that's what I'm running, and for the most part, it's fine. I'm streaming right now. I'm tabbing back and forth between the web version and the download version. I've got Slack running. I've got like 10 plus tabs open in Chrome. What the hell else do I have going on? I've got my drawing tool going. I've got multiple brokers open right now. I'm all right. I'd like it a little better. One thing I noticed, I don't have a graphics card in this computer. I think if I had a graphics card, I'd perform a little better than what I do actually. I do think a graphics card makes a difference. That's just my personal opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I think a graphics card would unload some of the stuff I have going on. If we look at my Control-Delete, bear with me, my task manager here, you can see what's going on for the processes. Task manager is deciding to go buck wild. So look, trade ideas is nowhere even on there. So this is trade ideas here. These sharp browsers. That's mostly trade ideas right there. So make of that what you will. I don't know why my PC is going absolutely bonkers right now. I mean, you can see Chrome is an absolute hog. So here's TI Pro, running at 4 or 5% on CPU usage, and it's running at around 600 megabytes on the memory right now. So for whatever that's worth there. And yes, Pepe knows better than everybody. I want to circle back for Sergio's question here. This is what I did with this scan. That was going over the back testing of, there's a good amount of filters in here. It's nothing all that wild. Some of these, you'll look with these funny kind of values, 0.99 and stuff like that, because of the back testing and optimizing. The idea was trying to find stocks that were in a strong trend and then make it a strong uptrend. ADX just means a strong trend, doesn't indicate direction. I use directional indicator to indicate the direction. I use VWAP, the different anchored VWAPs that we have to help indicate that direction. We're trying to figure that out. So, the best I could say is, start with a reasonable idea and just a few filters, and then work from there on the back testing. I got this scan, so I put that in there. No, because I'm at 24 gigs of RAM, and I don't think RAM is my issue. I think my CPU is a little more my issue than the RAM. But I also think that if I had a graphics card, that would take some of the load off the CPU overall. So that's something I would point you toward, or that's something I would point towards for you there, Stuart. I don't think you need anything really fancy for the graphics card either. I think just having something reasonable to offload some of that, especially with what whatever you might have going on in the background with Chrome or Edge or Firefox, whatever you're using for a browser. I think that's where some of my issues come in, to be honest. That's just my own 2 cents. I'm not a tech person at all. I was someone who was very far behind on tech in general in life, and I mean, I have a knowledge enough to sort of kind of get by most of the time. One other scan to look at here for back testing that I did is this one here. I'll share it first. Anybody's welcome to these cloud links. There's, no hidden tricks here or anything. Let me pull up the scan now. Now, this scan I did back in July, and I've been back testing it ever since then, and it's pretty much remained constant. You got to come in here and up the days, because when I was doing it, it was only like 63 or 62 days of back testing, because our back testing data is like 63 days-ish, depending on how market holidays fall. So you can see it down as low as 62. You can see it high as 66. Simulate the buy. And this has pretty much looked like this since I made it, where it's got this, makes a nice move up and a pullback like that. So actually it's performing a little worse than it had recently. I think some of the chop is killing it. But it's stayed like this for the most part this whole time. Profit factor around 1.5, give or take. I've seen it as low as 1.45. I've seen it as high as 1.55. And one of the things when you're back testing you want to see is you clearly want to see more green days, but you want to make sure that the green days, like, it's not just one big green day that makes the scan, right? You've got a nice little cluster there, and then you've got some clustering green days here. You want to make sure that, you keep those big red days down. A few more than I'd like now here with that. So I've been running it now in the simulator for a couple of weeks. I'm having it risk $200 a share based on a stop loss that I used. I actually created a filter for the stop loss here. It's just looking at the low of the day, essentially low of the day plus a few cents. No target. It's just a time stop. Sorry, let me come back into this. So in the risk management, I created this filter, low of the day filter that I'm using. There's no profit target, just a timed exit of 25 minutes like that. So, again, this isn't doing anything rocket science here with this. I started off with an idea here, again, looking at stocks that were in a nice uptrend above some of the different VWAPs. But this, I wanted to be an intraday scanner, not a swing trade idea. And I put an S&P component in here, NASDAQ component in here, some stuff like that. So, supporting integrations is a two-way thing. We tried to talk to Webull a few times. They don't want anything to do with us. So, there's really not much we can do with them, unfortunately. These companies, if I'm being really frank, these brokers don't give a crap about you. Like, it would be impossible for them to care less about you than they actually do. Give you a great example of this. When we first started trying to connect with E-Trade and TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim, when it was TD Ameritrade, we went to E-Trade and we told them, hey, your API is okay, except in the first 10 minutes or so. The API is pretty wonky, and sometimes it'll crash the app, and orders don't go through properly. And they said, yeah, whatever. I was like, yeah, but you guys haven't updated your API in like 15 years. And they said, yep. That was the end of the conversation. They didn't, E-Trade did not care. It was even worse with TD Ameritrade. Made the connection, and it was wonky, and it was giving bad data back and forth through the API. You couldn't see the positions properly. Orders didn't go through properly. It didn't display properly, all those things like that. And we said, hey, your API is, it does not work right. It's bad. And they said, okay. And that was the end of the conversation with them. And that's why we don't support TD Ameritrade's direct trading to them. It's not because we didn't want to. We spent a lot of money, and a lot of time trying to integrate into those two. And while we were able to make E-Trade work for the most part, and we kept it, we could not make TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim work. Obviously, Charles Schwab owns it now. They just don't care. All they want you to do is deposit your money with them and buy whatever they tell you to buy, and that's it. They do not want you. These companies do not want you managing your own money. They don't want you thinking for yourself or anything like that. And if someone from there was listening right now, I would love to have a phone call with you, and we could discuss that. But they do not care about you at all, and that's just the way it works, unfortunately. Interactive brokers, I mean, look, you get what you pay for, right? So their API is the most robust. They update it constantly. It works the best. You got to pay a commission to them, and you got to pay for some data fees for them. As long as you're not a professional, data fees they're in between $5 and $15 a month, basically. If you trade $30 worth of commissions a month, it's basically $5 a month. If you trade less than that, it's $15 a month. But like everything in life, you get what you pay for. If direct integration isn't important to you, then you don't need any of that stuff. I do most of my heavy lifting actually through Thinkorswim. When I say heavy lifting, most of my trading through Thinkorswim. So I have an IB account. I casually use it here and there. I have a Charles Schwab account that I do more very long-term stuff in. So I like Thinkorswim, and I was tired of moving money around because I was with Fidelity, and then I went to Thinkorswim, and then I went to IB, and then I went back to Fidelity, and then I went back to Thinkorswim, and I was like, I'm just staying here at Thinkorswim. It's half a dozen, one or six of the other as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, that's my, I'm going to call it, that's my magic trick on the day here today, folks. Unless there is any really pressing specific software usage questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the day here on the live stream to get back to all the other things I'm supposed to be doing. Anybody that was new to this today, every day at noon we do this. Some days it's me, some days it's Steve, some days it's Andy. I believe our CEO Dan, our CEO Dan did last Wednesday. I think he's going to want to do some more Wednesdays. I don't know for 100% sure that. There's some talk about it. I will neither confirm nor deny that's going to happen moving forward. But, this is a great place to get some questions answered. And then, of course, all day long, Barry is in the traders room, and he can answer a lot of questions too. He's a little more trader focused than software focused, but he can answer a lot of the questions that you have. You start getting the like crazy technicals about some of the software. There may be a thing or two that he's not gonna be up on. He's gonna direct you into our live support chat or email, but Barry can certainly help get you there for 90+% of whatever you got. And then you've got someone like Pepe who's always hanging around, and I don't know. I have a campaign going for Pepe here. So, Pepe, I've never seen him chime in about something that wasn't extremely helpful, just in case. And Pepe listens on this side, and he listens on the traders room side too. So if you're not in the traders room with Barry, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Huge disservice. That's a link for the traders room. Barry's definitely back from his break at this point. And that's my magic trick for the day, folks. So I thank you all very much for coming and joining. This was a phenomenal session. I really, really appreciate the interactions. Really appreciate them. I cannot express that gratitude enough for you all. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. If I don't see you before next week, but I suspect I'll be here one of these days to follow during the week, whether it's tomorrow or one of the next days. So thank you again, folks. Please join Barry in the live room, and we will see you all on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.